In the Netherlands, there is a very interesting and also an unusual lawsuit, a civil case. And it's good that we give you an update about this case. As you know, this is a very interesting and unusual case, a lawsuit. So I thought maybe it's interesting to give you an update and do this with Alessandro, because Alessandro is a lawyer and he's from Italy. So good evening, Alessandro.
Hi, Erica. As usual, it's a pleasure to be with you. And yes, I have been following the case in the Netherlands with great interest. And as well, let's say the public opinion, the little part of the public opinion who is interested in these things in Italy has been following the case. And especially among our community as lawyers, it's a very interesting case. We have some new associations that sprang up after 2020, and there are lots of chats of lawyers, and this has been very hot on the news in Italy during the last years.
Yes, it's also that it has a lot of international attention. Why do you think it's a unique case, Alexandro?
Well, there are lots of cases. You have cases against the vaccine mandate, you have cases against the masks, against the lockdowns. I have myself, I tried two class actions, and I am trying two class actions. One about the vaccine mandate for the doctors and workers of the healthcare system, and another one against the Italian government for damages owing to illegal legislation, because of course all this legislation which mandated vaccine passports, vaccines, and so on is illegal. We have the Treaty about Fundamental Rights in the European Union, which states at Article 3 that no medical treatment can be compulsory, that everything is dependent on the free will of the interested person. And so you cannot mandate these things. But still, these cases are, let's say, normal. You could define them in this way. What is unique about the case in the Netherlands is that the plaintiffs stated that there has been an international conspiracy among lots of people, among them Rutte and Bill Gates, Bourla, and it was on the behest of the World Economic Forum. And what they explain in their demand is that the way to accomplish the so-called Great Reset, which is not a conspiracy theory. Klaus Schwab wrote two books about the Great Reset, and in a nutshell, it's the idea that the whole social and political system of the world has to be completely turned upside down, with the abolishment of democracy as we know it, of fundamental rights to privacy, private property, individual freedom as we know it, and as it is a tradition of the so-called Western democracies, and to establish a completely new system based on a sort of technocratic healthcare dictatorship, where all the people have to necessarily to comply to certain mandates, which are not only healthcare mandates, but are mandates about, for example, consumption, because it's strictly connected. You have the health issues and the climate change issues. They are strictly connected, and the idea is to establish a sort of global dictatorship which turns around these issues. This is not something which I am inventing. Read the books of Klaus Schwab. They are very boring, very badly written, but still he says it very clearly. It's like reading Mein Kampf of Adolf Hitler. It's the same thing. It's a horrible world which he depicts in these books. Well, what the plaintiffs say in the case in the Netherlands is all these people are conjuring together to bring about this great reset, and it was done by means of a fake global pandemic, which was the so-called COVID crisis. They say this was staged because we all remember that in 2019 there was a very big event with the participation of lots of players, universities, so-called scientists, and so on, and they made um, uh, um, uh, um, they tried to see, this is what they told us, how it would work out if there were a global pandemic of a respiratory virus. So many people said, okay, so you planned it. And in fact, it seems like this, because if you look at this event, it was planned in the tiniest details. And so the claim in the Netherlands said all these people, they are part of an agreement to bring this about. And the idea which lies behind these schemes is also the idea of global depopulation. And one of the means to achieve global depopulation is the vaccination, because vaccines are not a sanitary treatment to protect you against a certain illness, like they told us. This is the narrative. So you should get a vaccine because this helps you to be protected against many illnesses, and in particular COVID-19. What the plaintiffs say, this is wrong, this is false, this is a misrepresentation of facts. In fact, the vaccine is poison, and the plaintiffs claim that they suffered substantial physical damage out of the vaccine. It may be noted that 2 years ago, when the case started, this seemed still an outlandish theory. But meanwhile, in 2025, we have a huge amount of studies which demonstrate at least this part of the claim, namely that the vaccines are very dangerous for your health. And there are lots of illnesses connected with the vaccine, especially illnesses connected with blood clotting and the cardiocirculatory system, illnesses connected with your immune system. So slowly the truth is coming out. What I can say from my experience is that at least in Italy, but in other countries as well, there is a very great shyness from the part of the courts to enter in these issues, especially medical issues. What, for example, our constitutional court ruled that all the vaccine mandates were okay, that there were no unconstitutionality in the Italian laws, and they said we accept the official version, scientific version from the official authorities of the Italian healthcare authorities as a given. We don't check it. We don't enter in these questions. And this is the big difference. This is also why the case in the Netherlands is unique, because apparently there is at least a discussion if expert witness should be called in to make an evaluation of what the plaintiffs claimed. So I think it's a very unique case, and it's regardless of how it will end, it is a case which is path setting in the fight against what we lived in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. What was also a very interesting and moment in this case was last year in the September, because the plaintiffs were saying like we're going to put some people to court, we want to justice. So they called in Rutte, the Jonge, some the I think 17, 16 people from the Netherlands, and also the state of the Netherlands, the country, but also Bill Gates and Albert Bourla. And I've heard from the lawyers that everybody was giving the, well, what is the English word for it when you have to go to court? The,
What do you mean?
well, the paper when you have to go to court, that you have to appear for the court.
Yeah, the brief,
Yes,
the
the letter
response
that you
brief.
get.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, of
yeah.
course.
So they said they were also going to Bill Gates because, but he just ran away all the time, and they really had to go to his door. So there was like a sheriff needed. So the sheriff could go to the door of Bill Gates and say, "Here is the letter from the Netherlands. You have to appear for the Dutch lawyers, for the Dutch court." Sorry. And then Bill Gates said, "Wow, I'm an American. I don't have to go to the Netherlands for this. They are not entitled to judge over me." So on the 18th of September, this case was going on in the Netherlands, but he was not there. But there was a lawyer, a Dutch lawyer, who represented him. And in October, we heard that Bill Gates lost this case because it called an incident. He was asked to come to the Netherlands, for this case, and he said, "No, no, no, the judge is not entitled to rule over me." But he lost that. So that was actually big news, right?
Yes, it was because yes, basically, Bill Gates's lawyer contested the jurisdiction of the Netherlands court because they said um, quite predictably, yes, Bill Gates is an American citizen. He is not resident in the Netherlands. He has nothing to do with the Dutch laws and with the vaccine laws there and so on and and he even denied that he had anything to do with the vaccines altogether. He claimed that he is a different person from Gavi and from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So he said, "I'm just a private citizen," which was maybe obvious because what else could have his lawyer said? But it was quite ridiculous, especially the part where he said that he had nothing to do with the two foundations, which are quite obviously his and which are um, directly connected with the whole vaccine business, especially Gavi. So he lost the case. Maybe if you want, you could say that he lost the case on a technicality because what the court said, which is quite obvious, the court said if one of the defendants uh, can be tried in the Netherlands because it is someone who is a resident in the Netherlands, then the other defendants which are connected with these persons in the description of the plaintiffs, they are subject to the same jurisdiction. And this is the argument of the court to keep Bill Gates in the case because they say, okay, we will have to go on the merits, and this hasn't happened yet. But still, if what the plaintiffs say is true, so if there is some sort of agreement between all these people, especially the most important, I would say that the three most important defendants, which could well have had an agreement between them, are Rutte, Bill Gates, De Jong, and Albert Bourla, because they were all the four of them directly connected with the decision to push the vaccines on the Dutch population and on the global population. But still, there is a very convincing description of this in the claim. And so this is what the court said. If this is true, then Bill Gates is part of it, and then we have the right to try him. It is it is important to note that, in my opinion, as you were telling about Bill Gates trying to evade the bailiff who wanted to serve him the document from the court, I think he is worried about this case. And that's why he tried so hard through his lawyers to escape the Dutch jurisdiction. And this is a good sign because maybe, hopefully, the court is independent. Because the real problem in these days is to find an independent court. We don't have much of them. I can tell you, in Italy, judges who had the courage to to ascertain that there were some problems with the vaccines were very few, and they had huge personal problems because you pay it as a judge. As a judge, you are part of a system. You are part of a system which is when they tell us, yes, the judicial power is independent from the executive and from the legislative power, this is just this is a fairy tale. It's not like that. Judges are fully dependent from the political power, and they simply cannot go against politics, cannot go against the laws. Otherwise, they will pay it. And so it needs lots of personal braveness to do this. And my hope is that this judge in Netherlands will have this courage to do this. Let's see what will happen. At least the decision on the jurisdiction against Bill Gates was very good, very interesting, and a very hard decision. So I'm happy that this happened. And okay, let's
Yeah.
see how it
Yeah,
goes.
and for the case, was it a big success? It was really positive for the case. What I've heard from the lawyers, there are two lawyers who are connected to this case. Their name is Arno van Kessel and Peter Stassen. These both lawyers, they said to us that now between this part of the case with Bill Gates and now, there has been a lot of writing between the court and the lawyers. So there's a lot of written communication. And they said what they wanted was, of course, to have it in public. Because when you have it in public, then you have attention from the public and the media. So they said that was really hard because they were trying all the time to get it like an oral hearing or just a letter, communicate by mail or emails and letters. So, but they were trying this, and then they came up with this idea, and they have like three new people who said that they are a victim of the vaccinations. And they said, well, maybe it's interesting that we have expert witnesses. So they try to ask five people to stand in, to come to court, to be the expert witnesses. And maybe you have heard about that. That was also, I have written down the names. It's like Joseph Stenson, Stensor. He's from the United States. And the first name that was mentioned was, of course, Mr. Boyle. But when they asked him, he said, yes, I want to be the witness. I want to be the expert, and I come to the Netherlands. But in January, he suddenly died. That was really shocking for everybody, and they don't even know what happened with him. Dr. Mike Jeden from the United Kingdom is coming to be the witness. Catherine Austin Fitz. She also lives in the Netherlands, but she's from the United States. And the other two names are Alexandra Latipova from the United States and Catherine Watt from the United States. These five people, they want to be the expert witnesses. But now on the 9th of July, there is going to be another hearing. But it's not that these people are coming. They want to talk about it first. That's really strange, Alexandra, that why is it it looks like it's going to be slowly. Of course, we know that this case can take many, many years, but is that normal? Do you know that they just slow it down so much?
Well, unfortunately, yes, it's normal. It's normal that civil cases are done mainly by writing, and this worsened even after COVID because what we had in public hearings is even less. There are lots of cases now in Italy, but I imagine that in it's everywhere in Europe, which are tried only by written means. You just send emails to and fro the court, or maybe the hearing is online, like we are talking now. So there's no personal contact between the judge and the parties and the witnesses and so on, which is, I think it's terrible because this is exactly the opposite of what a trial should be. The judge should be in contact with what is happening, and especially the judge shouldn't only read what the lawyers write, but the judge should hear what the lawyers say. Anyway, this is a common problem, so it's not only in the Netherlands. And the other problem about civil procedure, maybe we saw too many American movies about how the trials work. In fact, you cannot present your witnesses to the judge. First, you have to go to the judge and basically ask for permission. So it's normal that you have a hearing where you discuss if expert witnesses should be accepted at all. So this is the first hurdle to be won. And it's even, at least I must say, in Netherlands, it's better, for example, as in Italy, because in Italy you will discuss the necessity of expert witness, but then the judge will appoint an expert, and you can, as a party, you can appoint your witnesses, but what counts at the end of the day is what the expert appointed by the judge says. So it's worse. At least in Netherlands, you can try to get your witnesses on the witness stand, but unfortunately, this is normal. It is normal of civil cases, which doesn't mean that they are that it's a good system. If I had some power, I would change the system completely. We should have more of a system where the judge is just neutral. I would even like a system with juries, because we have all professional judges. If we had juries, it would be very different, because there would be common people deciding on the issues. And I would prefer a system where each lawyer presents his case. It will be his responsibility whom he will present as witnesses, as expert witnesses, and so on. And then it's for the jury to decide who is right and who is wrong. But unfortunately, this is not our systems, and it's the same everywhere. And our civil procedural rules come from the church trials of the Middle Ages, which were mainly written, mainly secret, and where the decision was on the part of the church, because the parties were just someone who disturbs the court. And this is the common attitude that you still have, especially as a plaintiff. As a plaintiff, you are someone who is disturbing the court, and so they look at you with some suspicion. And it's very, very hard to win these, especially these cases, because there you have to overcome big obstacles.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and one of the biggest obstacles that for me it seems a little bit like that is that last week we heard the news on the 11th of June that one of the lawyers of this case was arrested. And he was arrested in his house. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. And I got a text from his wife later, because in the Netherlands on that day we heard the news by mainstream media, but also like alternative media, and there were all kinds of stories like they were put under there were guns, with the police and so on. And later it was like, wow, has this really happened or not? So for me, I know these people, so I thought I just want to ask them what really happened. So I was in contact with his wife. Arno van Kessel is the lawyer who was arrested, and his wife wrote me the text that she was. Came to the house. The police came to the house at 5 o'clock in the morning. Got into the house, came into the bedrooms from them and the kids. Two officers and shouting police, police. So they had to get out of the bed. Coming downstairs, there were guns, they're pointing at the kids and all. So they came downstairs. Arno was blindfolded and moved out of the house with the police, with four or five, she said. And she, with the kids, had to stay on the couch. The police was in the house for about 8 hours searching for stuff, she said. And it was very traumatic for them and for the kids. And later she said that they told her, like the police told her, like he's going to be in the prison for 3 days, and after that there's going to be an research, maybe then he stays longer in jail. So what we know now is that this week they said they are going to be in jail for 2 more weeks. It was not only Arno who was arrested. There were 7 other people arrested in the Netherlands, and in the newspaper it was that these people were being sovereign, and that they were arrested because they were suspected of being into an international or in a network, to be against the government, having drugs in the house, having guns in the house, preparing maybe an attack or something. This was in the newspaper. So the strange thing is about Arno van Kessel, you think like he's a lawyer, he's not being sovereign because he's a lawyer. He works in the system. So that was question one. So first, Alessandro, let's talk about what happened. Is this normal when you are suspected of this kind of what do you have to do that the police comes into your house at 5 o'clock in the morning? Why can't they wait until 8 o'clock, and just say, hey, you need to come with us? What is this? What do you do when something happens to you like this?
Well, these things you can do in lots of different ways. And if you have to arrest a lawyer, it may happen, but if you have to arrest a lawyer, yes, you could come there with just a few guys at a normal timing and say, sorry, counselor, we have to arrest you. This is the decision by the judge. You are going in custody. And in 99.9% of the cases, what would the lawyer do? You are saying it. He knows the system. He knows that there's not the risk that a guy of 60 plus years maybe goes away or have weapons and can try to use violence against the police. So this is all completely ridiculous. So yes, you could have cases like this. If you have to arrest some dangerous boss of a drug cartel, yes, you do it at 5 o'clock in the morning with guns and lots of policemen. But if you have to arrest a very normal person who just does a very normal job, you don't need it. So I think this is part of the idea to terrorize people, especially to terrorize someone like Arno van Kessel, who is doing a very sensitive job. It's the case that we discussed just a few minutes ago. And so you want to terrorize the victim of this case. You want to terrorize especially his family, because the family is important. You talk to his wife, and I can imagine that a spouse who sees what happens maybe says, okay, just stop it. They are too powerful, too big. So just
It's too much for me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
too much. It's human. I can understand it. So this is so why do they do it like this? In order to terrorize both the victim, so the arrested person and his family. The investigation, I read just some news from the press, but the investigation strikes me as particularly inconsistent. Most of the people who have been arrested are elderly gentlemen like me with white hair, and so hardly anyone who would say, well, this is a dangerous international terrorist who wants to establish some sort of coup d'etat or something like that. It reminds me very much of a German case which came up a few years ago. It's the case of the Reichsbürger in Germany, and it's similar. So they accused lots of elderly gentlemen of being some right-wing terrorists. I remember one of the arrested ones. He was on a wheelchair when they arrested him, so you can imagine how dangerous this guy could be. Same pattern, same structure, with the police coming in full gear with weapons and combat uniforms at 5 o'clock in the morning and taking them out. Recently, in Germany, they did a similar thing with a publisher of a right-wing newspaper, but yes, they seized all his computers and documents. In the morning, he was in a bathrobe when he opened the door to the police, and they even seized the chairs and the tables, because the judge said that he could use the chairs and the table to write something, and so they seized even the chairs. Okay, they lost the case. They had to give back everything, but still, this is this
Yeah.
is the way the government shows its ugly face and shows its power to someone who does a job which is not liked. The problem is what you mentioned before. Yes, as a lawyer, you are part of the system, but you can be a clog in the system. You can be a problem for the system because you work the system, you know how the system can be fought. And this is exactly what Arno was doing. So he was fighting the system with a very, very unique case where he spilled it all out, what is happening. He said, listen, guys, there's a global conspiracy, which is true, by the way, in my opinion. They used COVID to bring about the first part of a complete resetting of society, of human relations, of the structure of power, of democracy itself, and so on. So this is big. This is something that must not be discussed. So I can imagine that that they don't like him very much, and this is the reason. Then we don't know. Maybe it's true. There will be a trial. There will be some sort of investigation, but still, it doesn't make much sense. Especially if you arrest someone, you usually need some cause to arrest this guy. You need to say that there's a risk that the arrested person could escape. This is very unlikely for a lawyer to escape. Where should he go? He has a law firm, he has the trial going on, and so where does he escape and why? Or it could be that the arrested person goes on committing crimes. So this is one of the reasons you want to stop a criminal from keeping on committing crimes. But this is, again, very unlikely. Or you could be afraid that this person is violent, but then there should be a track record of violence. So you should say, okay, yes, this guy has been arrested 10 times because of violent crimes. Then it may be the sensible thing to do to arrest him. But still, I don't see this I don't know Arno personally, but what I read, what I saw from his website, what I saw from the website about the case, it's a very important case. It's a very hard case because it's not something that you find every day, but still it's the job that we lawyers are supposed to do. I don't know how it's in Netherlands, but our oath as lawyers, for example, in Italy, we swear to uphold justice, not the laws, not the constitution, but justice. So it's really a big challenge to what you're doing. So you are fighting for justice. You're not fighting for the existing law of a certain country. You are fighting for your clients. You are fighting for truth. So this is, in a way, we are like doctors. Doctors are fighting for, should be fighting. Okay, after these years, I'm not so sure anymore, but they should be fighting for the life of their patients, and they swear an oath not to do harm. So this is our professions are not so normal. It's not like doing any job whatsoever. We have a mission, truly a mission, and sometimes this could bring you in opposition to the governments. And in this case, you risk, because as Voltaire said, it's very dangerous to be right when the government is wrong, and this is exactly what we see.
Yeah. Well, one question about that, because you said like we know that he was collecting a lot of evidence for the case, right or wrong evidence, but he was collecting a lot of evidence. Experts were, he has a lot of research for the case that he wanted to um, give to the judges. So is it just possible that the police just can come into the house and get all these documents from you?
No, this is another problem, because whatever is related not only to this case but to any case that Arno is following is covered by the attorney-client privilege. So the police couldn't put their hands on this, and this maybe is the explanation for what is happening, because the police usually cannot have access to these documents because they are secret. They are just something which is between the attorney and his clients. But if you want to violate this privilege, the attorney-client privilege, this is the way. You accuse the lawyer of some outlandish crime. You tell him, yes, this is a terrorist, this is a drug dealer, whatever. And in this case, you have the right to sees everything, you read everything, then they will tell you, okay, these documents, they have nothing to do with our case and with the accusations, so we give them back to you. But who guarantees that they didn't read them, that they didn't copy them? No one. And so this is a common abuse
Yeah.
to put their hands on the documents of the clients. There's another common system which is not very well known, which is the money laundering laws.
Yeah.
Since we lawyers are subject to money laundering laws, and we have to apply basically the same rules as the banks, know your customer, and you have to identify the people, to identify the source of the money. Often we lawyers, we deal with our clients' money, and we are subject to money laundering laws. In this case, the police or the authorities can get hold of the documents of your clients, because they say, no, this is not attorney-client privilege, this is money laundering laws. And so this is a wonderful scheme to put their hands on the documents of the clients. It's not very well known, but it happens. It
Wow.
happens, and there are lots of ways around something which should be sacred, because if you are defending someone, the secrecy of your communications between you and your client should be absolute and inviolable. But this is not like this. We have lots of laws. Our laws have so many loopholes which are constructed in favor of the governments, in favor of the police. So you're always on the losing side, on the losing end in these issues.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yesterday I received a message from the wife of Arno van Kessel, and she said that she went to the well, to the place where Arno's supposed to be. And no, she called and she said, yeah, I would like, to know how he's doing. And she gave him his name and his date of birth. And they couldn't find him in the system. So that was really crazy, actually. And she said, well, maybe the administration is behind. But then she went to the place where she thought he would be. And she went to the police station to ask, like, hey, I would like to bring him some new clothes and to see how he's doing or bring him some personal stuffs. And they said, well, you don't have to worry about his hygienic stuff because we have clothes for him. We have all the stuff for him. And she said, wow, I really don't know where he is. We don't know, is he transferred or not? So he has a lawyer, and it was not a lawyer that they gave to him. He could choose his own lawyer, but this lawyer couldn't talk. She said he can't talk. And and now she thought maybe there's a hearing, that he has to come to a hearing, but she said now we just have to wait again 2 weeks. We don't hear from him. Alexander, this was something that I thought, my goodness, if somebody goes into jail and you don't hear from them, is that normal that you, as family, you don't know where that person is? Is that normal?
No, this is not normal. Okay, I'm not familiar with Dutch criminal procedure, but I can tell you from my experience, I have lots of experience as a criminal lawyer, and at least in Italy, it's not normal. You are always entitled to talk to your lawyer. I had some clients who had been arrested, and I can go to the prison where they are and talk to them the same day, the same hour when they are arrested, because one of the fundamental rights of the accused person is to have private, unrestricted access to his or her lawyer. So this is
Absolutely.
the
Yeah, but the
general
lawyer is there. The lawyer is there, but the family doesn't know where he is.
same thing about, but you told the lawyer can't talk to him. So this is
Oh,
not
to the family, to the
okay.
family. The lawyer can.
Family as well. You have a right to have visits. So usually in these cases in Italy, even if you are arrested in an ongoing investigation, usually you file a request with the court to visit the arrested person, and you get the authorization in a matter, I wouldn't say of hours, but of days. Even in Italy, where justice isn't the courts aren't working that great. So this strikes me as very, very strange. And then there are some human rights connected to being subject to a criminal procedure, like having the right to be fully informed of what you are accused of,
Yeah.
having the right to talk to who is accusing you, having the right to getting access to the judge. For example, in Italy, if you are arrested, it's the public prosecutor who asks that you are arrested, but then you have the right within a few hours from the arrest to talk to the judge together with your lawyer. So these are some very basic and fundamental rights of the accused persons. And from what you are telling me, it seems that these rights have been violated quite blatantly in this case. And this makes me very suspicious. And it's not normal what is going on.
Should we conclude then that they are really, at least, well, I only heard from the case of Arno von Kessel that he is treated like a real criminal?
Well, so it seems, yes, he is treated like a criminal, and the only reason why you could have this very harsh treatment of being blocked for weeks without having the right to have contacts with your family and so on, we have it in, for example, in Italy, we have it in some few cases which regard terrorism and mafia. In these cases, sometimes it could be that you are so dangerous that you have to be isolated from the external world, but this doesn't seem such a case. And so my impression is that this is an attempt, and not so much an attempt. They they did it to intimidate and to scare Arno and his family. It's very sad, especially because we have been told for decades that we live in Western democracies, that we have constitutions, that the fundamental rights are guaranteed, that the judiciary is independent from the government and from the legislative power. We have to start understanding that this is not true. This is a fairy tale that they told us. Yes, we learned in school and at university that there exists this wonderful ideal of the liberal democratic country where you are guaranteed in your rights. And we have also learned the fairy tales that the good ones won World War II, and then since then we live in a sort of political paradise where everyone is entitled to certain rights. This is simply wrong. This is not what happens, unfortunately. You are fighting against a ruthless, dangerous, and violent power whose only aim is to increase its richness, its power, and to oppress the common citizens. That's why the job of Arno, or my job, is so hard, because you are somehow the person who is in between this huge structure of power and the common people. And sometimes it's hard to explain what is going on in the courts. It's very hard to explain because most of the people, I don't blame them because they don't have experience. They believe in this fairy tale, but it's time that the people accept that the administration of justice is mainly arbitrary, and you have to be scared about what is going on. And this is not a good reason to abandon the fight. This is important to highlight it. I told you before, we swear an oath to uphold justice, and this is what we will continue doing. But you should know that it's very difficult to pull it through.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah, let's support and think about Arno, who is in prison at the moment, and his family. We'll keep you updated. On the 9th of July, I'm trying to be at this court again at the hearing to give you an update there. So please follow our page, follow Zebra Inspiratie. Also, if you want to be informed about this case. Thank you so much, Alessandro, for helping me to update the world internationally about what's going on. Thank you so much for your explanation and your information.
You're very welcome, Erika, and let's keep in touch. I'm eager to follow up the case, and so hopefully we can do soon another video with Arno free and with good news from the trial in Netherlands.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And for everybody, thank you for watching. And please support the case by looking down in this under the video. We have a lot of information how you can being updated about this case. Thank you so much. Goodbye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.